All right, I should be live now. So, a minute or two early, but let's see here. So this is a working session on the World War III Week 2. I've been calling it European theater, or for those what I consider the general viewing audience, you could say NATO versus Russia, although it does incorporate more. If you saw the video I posted Monday, which is probably done better than most of my most recent videos, and you know, a pretty good idea why, but if you saw that, you would see that I had posted a slice of week 2 specific to the Middle East. And so it's not built in to this main one. It was me testing it out. So I had some ideas I wanted to run through on how that would escalate. And unfortunately, a lot of people watched that video, and a lot of people, I'd say in the magnitude of probably 10 to 20 times the amount that normally watch the video, so they hadn't seen any of the previous videos of this series. So a lot of them commented on that in a vacuum. I even had a gentleman today, and I bring it up and I don't mean it in an insulting way, because once he realized, and I explained to him, he was actually pretty gracious enough to say, hey, yeah, I messed up. And you don't get that often on the internet, so I did appreciate that. But, you know, he said, hey, you didn't show Iran attacking Israel and this stuff. And I said, well, yeah, it's built into the scenario, though, that Israel doesn't start launching nukes at first until the United States and a lot of its allies are already engaged on a two-front nuclear conflict now for over a week. And also, this would be follow-on from a saturation missile strikes from South Lebanon with Hezbollah and also Iran. And so, in this scenario, Israel, being that their allies are heavily engaged, worried for their existence of their state, decide to do a limited nuclear strike on southern Lebanon to prevent attacks and raids coming across the border. And then, whereas that galvanizes the surrounding Arab countries, and you know, as well as Iran, which is culturally distinct from the Arab nations, but it's a whole different topic, that concerned over them following to attack, that they start striking two main avenues that could be for a ground invasion. And so that's not meant to be, it wasn't meant to be a standalone scenario. I mean, the likelihood of Israel deploying nuclear weapons under current scenario, current parameters is as close to zero as you can get. Not to absolve or anything. Like I said, I'm not getting into right or wrong or anything. And I think, you know, some people on both sides of that kind of took issue with a couple things there without knowing that, look, and I said at the beginning, but again, you know, people watch videos and stuff, and I just kind of said it briefly, but that, you know, there was a lot going on there. So, if you had seen week 1, it ended right around the time that the Soviet Union, Russia, after some tit for tat, did a decapitation strike across European NATO sites specifically, and they'd already hit Ukrainian sites. You know, this was earlier in week 1, after some back and forth and a warning detonation. They did tactical nuclear strikes on bases in western Ukraine. You know, their forces are along in the east here. So with fallout and other things being a concern, they struck bases on the west and over, you know, the one, you know, outside of Ukraine, or Kyiv itself. it continues at that point. And Russia strikes NATO headquarters in Brussels and other locations. And I included and baked into here one of their missiles, a cruise missile, went wide and struck over into the border of France. And I did that on purpose. And the reason why I did that is France has had a long-standing policy, or at least they did. I don't know what their current policy is. I'm not a member of the French government, but a long-standing policy that, hey, if you hit us or you cross the Rhine or whatever, and this was specific in the Soviet Union days, but our nuclear forces aren't anywhere as close to yours in Russia, but we will, basically turn your major cities into glass. And so I specifically had one that went into France. So they didn't intentionally, and this would be Russia, nuke any directly nuclear armed NATO country. And that's United Kingdom, France, and the United States. Now, there are nuclear weapons housed in Germany, but Germany itself is not considered a nuclear arm. It's from a nuclear sharing program that we have with Germany and Italy and Turkey. So, bring up my attack plan. So that one goes wide. So following in, and that kind of took us to the end of the week. So the United States, if you saw too, in the Pacific, is already engaged too in China. Or I should say in Southeast Asia. So China hit U.S. bases, Okinawa, South Korea, and Guam. And then going into week 2, it continues from there. The United States, at this point, made a decision to attempt to take out as many Russian nuclear sites as possible. This would include and up to radar sites as well. And so I built in, these are going to be strikes from standoff cruise missiles, from B-52s. Most of these would be done outside of Russian airspace. Some of these are going to cross into Russian airspace. I did bake in, and this sim does not do air defenses. It doesn't do anything remotely of the sort. That'd be like a command modern operations, and I'd consider trying to integrate the two, but time factor, I just don't have the time to do that right now. I'll do some standalone stuff with command modern operations, but it's just not feasible at the moment due to my training and stuff kind of kicking into high gear. But so we're using this with the understanding that there's already been some widespread conventional attacks against Russian air defense sites. These would be going in part of a larger, package with electronic defense, jammers, and you name it. And some of these are coming from the United States, and some are coming from forward deployed bases in Europe. Not at Ramstein, because Ramstein's now a smoking crater. There's also going to be some sub-launched ones. Now, here's some of the stuff I did bake into this, though. Russia is going to respond. At some point, they're going to say they're getting nuked, and they're not going to sit with their thumbs in their behinds while their nuclear forces are destroyed. Now, they're still going to have subs, and I did factor in that the U.S. is trailing and sinks some of their boomers, but not all of them. And for that matter, I did bake in Russia taking out one of our boomers as well. I made it less so along the border of Russia in their shallow waters. And then there's still some surviving ones in the Arctic, just as with us. But I'm going to have sub-launched missiles hitting these silos as well from the U.S., so it's going to be a two-pronged thing. But if you see on some of these, especially the ones that are deeper into Russia, because of air defenses, because of other things, I baked in a certain level of inaccuracy. So these strikes, some of them are happening fairly close, but not exactly on top of. Some of them are way off. So they're nowhere remotely close to a silo. So I baked in both. Now, these are all going to have targets in the United States, these Russian silos. So anything that doesn't get destroyed is going to fire at the United States. And for that matter, anything, it may fire before it's destroyed. Now, if you've seen the scenario, you've seen that China in week 2 hit some U.S. command and control centers and some silos. Russia's not going to know what's standing and what's not standing, neither will China. So they got their pre-targeted locations, and they're still going to strike those. So those targets may already be destroyed, or may be in the process of being destroyed when they fire. Or the particular silos that are targeting, say, Cheyenne Mountain Complex, maybe they get destroyed and don't fire at all before they're able to fire. So that's where it's going to be some thing. So I'm going to start now doing some targets for this one. So this is this sub here that's fairly close to Russia. And so they have a mix of the Whiskey 76 90 kiloton warheads, also the Whiskey 88 455 kiloton warheads. So priority targeting are going to be these bad boys right here, because these are the Sarmats. These are Russians' latest ones. Being that these are 90 kiloton, they're each going to get 2. And there's going to be a certain level of redundancy on these targeting. These are all doing surface burst, because they've also been targeted with the B-52 air-launched cruise missiles, nuclear-tipped ones. But that's going to be a priority. Now, your mileage may vary, being that these are the newest missiles, that they should be the ones that are going to be the most reliable, most accurate, and the biggest threat. There's a small number of them here. I didn't put very many. We don't know the exact number. Not even 100% sure that they're actually deployed, but they say they are. And I'm going to play safe than sorry, but so when I talk about being time consuming, this is what I'm talking about. this is not a fast process. And if you want to know an irony in the situation, a video that I spent hours and hours on, did like 200 views or whatever. And then the video I spent maybe about 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I didn't even put my intro into it, like did nothing on it. And in a few days, it's over 4,000 views, which for a small channel like mine is not bad. And I'm like, man, that's, it's like, I don't know, it just seems like it always works out that way. I don't mind though, because the majority of normal people just want to see some stuff fly around and that's it. They don't want to care so much about seeing attack plans and processes and what thoughts go into this. Man. So still still working my way through here. There's some stuff I wish on this sim, like I wish I could import attack plans, and maybe you can, but I don't know how to do it. Import attack plans from one mission to another. I think it'd be hard to do that. And I wish you could better progress, like if I run through and do like week 1 and run the sim and then stop and save, it doesn't like save those casualties or save your progress. Hey, I see a Jazzy there. Sorry, I can't type at the moment, but yeah, it's weird. Like, I never even intended to have a channel. My first video on the Nuclear War Simulator, like, I was getting like, I had 10 subscribers and getting like 20 views, mostly just doing DCS World's flight sim stuff. And like a bunch of people started watching. I'm like, holy crap. And that video ended up doing like 40,000 some, and a lot of people subscribed to it. And ever since then, it's like so hit or miss. Sometimes they'll do very well, sometimes they won't do well. And, I think that just comes with the territory, and you just gotta chug along. I mean, I'm sure, depending on your topic, I mean, let's be honest, nuclear war is a very niche topic, and, it's not like how to use a Fitbit Charge 6. Somebody makes a video like that and get 10 million views because people are buying it and stuff. All right, so those are the Sarmat sites. So I'm gonna try. I said this is where it's getting into like a level of redundancy. I want to say that this site's already been targeted. I'm gonna leave that alone. Working here. So these are only going to get 1 each from the sub-launch missiles. They already got the cruise missiles hitting them too. And just instinctively, I start not zooming in quite as much the further I get. This is still fairly zoomed in. All right, now we're at the big boys. Yeah, I've never messed with Twitch too much. I probably should have. Kind of part of me thought, well, just focus on one platform. It's probably better off that way, or better off, going across a few. Trying not to. Yeah, man. It's definitely hard work, and it's just like today. Like I ate lunch, and then I ended up falling asleep for a little while because we've been. Okay, I'm down to the last missile here because I always put this. Yeah, it reverted back, so I'm already exhausted. So let's do SBLM silo tank. No, you know what? Let me find the other sub, so that way I can keep this targeted. This is another thing. So I think I did this one, so I'm going to do this one. Add selected units. Okay. This will go back to the 90 kiloton. Otherwise it'll be a mix. So doing a training in the morning, so trained my shoulders and did a 2K rowing thing, and usually don't sleep in the afternoon or nap in the afternoon. I'm taking a nap this afternoon and then woke up and I wanted to get some extra steps in. It's like now you're kind of crunch time and you're like, well, I've already set this up for 5 and just difficult. And then like I recently upgraded my internet to symmetrical speeds. I gotta do one more. And I keep getting this thing saying my bit rate is too low. And I don't understand why. So I still gotta play around with that. I haven't done a lot of streams and kind of use this as a test thing. That's how my whole channel started to begin with, was to try to test out some very light video editing. And so some stuff I do just to see what happens. Okay, so still got a ton of other ones to hit. Purposely not hitting the mobile launcher sites. I am hitting radar sites. Okay, how many do I have left? This will be the last one until I get to the bigger bombs. Those have already been struck. All right, now we're at the big boys. Let's see here. Still not specifically targeting cities per se. These bases along the western coast have been hit already. Okay. I'm going to keep it to that. So now I got to figure out where to put this. This is where this gets kind of convoluted too. Man, it's like you get so many of these attack plans built in, and then I kept screwing up the Pakistan ones. So Pakistan striking India, I put like Pakistan strikes more, even more, yet more, final, because I kept doing them individually. I should have done it as one big one, but once you start doing it, I didn't want to have to redo the work. And so these are mixed in with the Pacific theater, so I gotta balance these out. So the B-52 strike at 1560. I'm not gonna be able to do this on my phone. 1560 is 26 hours into the simulation, so that would be September 8th at 2 p.m. 1400 hours. So let's do. So if I do 1560 and I add 120 to that, that would take me to 1680. Shit. Is this it? Second week of World War II. This is where I got to test it all out now. So execute all plans. Then I got to get to 2 p.m. the next day. Okay. I'm sitting at about 2 p.m. exactly. So, if that's right, yep, these B-52s should be taking off now. And then the sub-launch should take place 2 hours after that. So it should be about 1600 hours or 4 p.m. Then all the crap's happening in the Pacific too, so. Okay. We can see the subs are lighting up, so they're launching now. Where are... Yeah. I might have to move it back. Trying to time this with the B-52s is going to be hard. They take forever to make their strikes. Let's move this out of the way. Ooh, the Russian air defense system started trying to take some of them out. So it's interesting. The B-52s still haven't made their strikes yet. Kind of confirms. Yeah, no, even. We have a couple surviving Sarmats, but their silo command center is taken out, so they won't be able to fire. Some of these made it. Some of those made it. So we're sitting at certainly by 30 after. I'm going to set it to where the Russians are giving their go-ahead to launch 15 minutes after the sub-launch missiles. What this represents is the B-52s are still making their way, so that wouldn't necessarily trigger a Russian response yet. In fact, I may utilize the B-52s for something else. They take so long to strike. By the time the Russians are under attack, they're already firing everything. Yeah. Just for informational purposes. Let's see where Russia's at casualty-wise at this point. I think the B-52s are going to be better suited to start hitting population and industrial targets as follow-on strikes. Because it'll be just too hard to time Russian retaliation. Yeah. Of course, the United States has lost over 1 million already just due to the Chinese strikes. Because they hit some cities. So, Los Angeles, Seattle. Hey, Hard Knocks, see you on here. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be looking good. Even if, they've tended towards smaller warheads and more accuracy, but, even if the initial strikes didn't get you, the food shortages and medical supply chain issues, all that stuff, it wouldn't be looking good. But it wouldn't be looking good for any of us, to be honest with you. So, some people say they're better off if you're closer to a primary target. I live extremely close to where they're housing U.S. Army chemical weapons. So they actually decommissioned the last one of the last year. We actually, when we moved to this town, our realtor didn't tell us this, interestingly enough. But once we moved here, they gave us like a warning package. So, if a chemical issue happened or something. But it's like, you really probably should have told us that when you sold us the house. Like, hey, a few miles down the road, we house our nation's chemical weapons supply, and they're decommissioning right now. And if you smell, something funny, or if you start choking, well, it's probably too late. All right, so attack plans. And this is where you really got to test this stuff out, and you just find what works and what doesn't work. So I'm going to take these B-52 size. No, it's the other one. Bluegrass Army Depot, Kentucky. So I'm not a native Kentuckian, although my family originally was from Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, but they moved to Columbus to work at Buckeye Steel Foundry, just like a lot of people from Appalachia moved into Ohio to work at various steel factories. So mine was one of them. So I'll move this back, and I'm going to move this to 1560. And I'm going to move this up alongside that. So at the same time, we're trying to decapitate China. Oops. I just changed the wrong one. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of trying to fix that, I'm just going to reload. Yeah, I mean, I'm several good miles from the Army Depot. So, even if it, off chance, which I doubt it would be a specific target, there's plenty of primary, priority targets. Hey, Wiz Nation. Well, that's one of the reasons I do these live working sessions, is so people that have this sim can kind of learn from it. So I know we're halfway through here, or more than halfway through, but I have a couple videos already on some stuff to, how to do stuff. I'm working on attack plans right now. And so as I just did them and tested them out, I found that this one just wasn't working with these B-52s. So I'm taking that out, and I'm going to use those later for something else. And I'm going to move these sub-launched ones into its place. And I'm going to move it up. Yeah, I actually do mine off of Steam too. So this was developed by Ivan Stepanov. Just to be clear, some people I've noticed have commented sometimes saying like this, something with the sim and stuff. I want to be clear, this is not my simulation. I think it's Ivan Stepanov was the one that came up with this, and they actually used it recently at some university study on the effects of nuclear war. But Matrix Games helped to publish it, and I'm a big fan of Matrix Games. And so I have some of their stuff I bought off their website, and then some off Steam. Steam's just easier for me because just as a platform. And the cool thing about Matrix is if you buy it off their website, usually they'll give you the Steam key too. So I bought one, a different sim on there, because they usually come out on Matrix first, then on Steam. So I bought what is it? Flashpoint Campaign Southern Storm, which is a Cold War gone hot in the 80s. Yeah, so when I lived in Ohio, there's Rickenbacker Air Base in Columbus, which isn't too crazy, but then there's Wright-Patterson in Dayton. When I was a kid, I went to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum, which is cool because, when I was a kid, that was right like when Top Gun had come out, the original. So, I mean, everybody wanted to be a freaking naval aviator. And the cool kids had those little leather bomber jackets with the patches and stuff. I wonder how many, upper teenage they got to sign up for the Navy thinking they were going to be naval aviators and ended up just scrubbing the side of the ship for 4 years. All right. So I replaced the B-52s with these sub-launched ones. And so the Russians, at about 15 minutes after launch, the Russians are going to give the go-ahead to start launching their weapons. I'm going to break this up because there's no way I'll get through all of the Russian silos. It'll be a funny, not funny, but chain of events, because we'll try to take out their silos with our sub-launch missiles. They're going to launch their silos because they're saying, well, we'd rather fire them than lose them. And then we'll end up launching our silos because of the same kind of mindset. So these are the SAR mats here. Sorry, not all of these are SAR mats. So I have 5 SAR mats deployed. So let me do with those. And so this is how to do an attack plan. Yeah, unfortunately in Texas is going to have a lot of priority targets. There's a lot of military bases in Texas. That was that key kind of focal point of that. Did I intend to have 10 warheads on each of these? Hmm. I'm going to have to... See, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information on the SAR mat. And so I kind of had to go off of a very uneducated guess. I could have swore, though, that I only intended for 5 warheads on each of these missiles for a total of 25 warheads. I knew 5. I did 5. I deployed 5 of them. All right. So I'm going to show you real fast if you've got to change a unit around, because this isn't fun. If you open up blueprints, and if you go down to warheads, you cannot edit their baseline. So this is the SAR-MAT warhead, which you wouldn't want to edit this one necessarily anyways. Under ballistic missiles, though, you'll see there's another entry for SAR-MAT. So there's one for the missile and one for each of the warheads. So the easiest thing would be to change this to, say, 5 warheads and save it. But you'll get this. You cannot edit default blueprints. So here's what you got to do. Click New. Left click the new box. Type in SS, whatever you want to do it. I'm just going to make it simple. I'm going to say SAR-MAT with 5 warheads. So this is going to be very generic. So what you got to do is come down to this one, copy, come back up to this one, paste, and unfortunately it created a whole new entry, so I need to, we got to be careful with this. Take this name out, otherwise it'll start messing with you. Take this one and delete that. Take this one, come down here and change this number to 5. Save. And exit. Come back over to here. Highlight those. Come back down here. Remove. And add this one in its place. And then click Save. Go to the next one. Remove. Come back over here, save. Remove, come back over here, save. Save. So then, boom, now target. Now they all should have 5 warheads, which is what I intended to begin with. 500 kiloton. And so to do this strike plan, focus on SAR mats are going to be the highest priority targets, so they're going to go one's going to be targeted for Washington, D.C. One's going to be targeted for the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Then we have Omaha, which I can never find. Every time. This is the fastest I've ever found Omaha on this map. This is what's crazy. Oh. And where's the last one? Oh. Okay. Russian. C3 strikes on US. So the SAR mats are going to be tasked with that. Click done. Do not click execute. If you're new to this, don't click execute because it erases your plan. And then if you've already got built-in plans, I need to move this up. So I'm going to move this up to right after the U.S. sub-launched ballistic missile silo and radar attacks. Click this little arrow. Then I want this to take place, I'm going to say 20 minutes. So I'm going to say 1580. 20 minutes from the time these sub-launch ballistic missiles from the U.S. launch to Russia giving the order to counterstrike. So it's only going to be the SAR mats. I'm not going to go through the other ones because it's just going to be too time consuming. So I'm going to save. If my wife is watching the stream right now, a beer would be really awesome. I don't think this diet root beer is cutting it right now. Let's see here. Oh, shit. All right, so let's test this bad boy out. Make sure. I'm like overly paranoid to make sure I save just so I don't screw anything up. That's why the OCD comes in. All right, so now I'll go attack plans, execute all plans. Then I need to go back to go forward in time until I get to 2 p.m. All right. So we should start seeing these light up. Radars are telling me stuff's launching. Russian air defenses is trying to take out some. So, reaction time not enough. Subs being so close, they were able to take out the silo control centers for the Sarmats before the Sarmats could even launch. So this is where I got to test it out. So I'm going to rerun this. Load user. Attack plans. I'm going to change this now to 1575. That's 15 minutes. Attack plans. Execute all. Execute all. Okay. Two o'clock. 2 o'clock now. Okay. So it looks like all 5 of the Sarmats launched. So what's interesting is Russia and China were hitting the U.S. around the same time. Wasn't coordinated, it just worked out that way. I do have Discord. I haven't used it for about a year. I just go through bouts where I'm on it and not. Okay. United States about 5 million. So what it looked like was, it looked like the Sarmat that was going to strike Washington got taken out by the air defense here, the THAAD, which would probably be highly unlikely, but it didn't matter since the Chinese one got through. So I'm going to run this one more time. I'm trying to figure out if there's a time frame where it'll be hit or miss that the Russians will be able to respond. Let's go. $18 minutes. All right. Gotta go. See, this is where I'd kill to be able to save in progress. So I didn't have to do this constantly. All right. So we should see the US sub starting to launch now. Ah, interesting. So that's kind of the cutoff point, is right there. So 2 of them got off that time. Now 2 of those would also equal out to 10 warheads. Or not. Try to stop before these incoming Chinese ones. I should pause those for the time being. Wow. That didn't work out like I thought it was going to. Well, a few times that's ever crashed on me before. Well, I think I got the response time. I think I'm going to change it to 17 minutes. And so, I mean, when you come up with like a response time, it's, who knows, with chain of command and then being able to actually execute the actions and then stuff. But they'd be on high alert. Nukes are already going on. So I would say the response time would probably be pretty low anyways. So I think with this crashing though, and I'm about almost an hour in, gracias, I'm going to drink a beer and call it an evening. Hey, appreciate everybody jumping on in the chat and everything. I think I'm going to have to... No, absolutely. I thank you guys. So appreciate it. And have a good week.